Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. Readers of freedomsphoenix.com are constantly provided the information that detail the real news between the lines of propaganda about government policies and the true relationship we all have with coercive governments. Learn the true condition of our economy, innovations and technological breakthroughs in energy, health, computer science, and space travel. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media, the media that is so last century. Corporate media has evolved into nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but we now have a fantastic alternative. FreedomsPhoenix.com provides constant news updates on the issues that affect our lives in the most important ways. Our liberty and our property are under constant attack, and FreedomsPhoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda while encouraging the participation of our readers. Join us at FreedomsPhoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, Phoenix.com. FreedomsPhoenix.com, where the revolution between the ears has already matured.
It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
No fear, no fear, no fear here on Declare Your Independence. With me, Ernest Hancock. Yeah, we got, the theme on the video there is eye patch. Yeah, I got my eyes going crazy here. That's all right. You get to put up with, beautiful me. But, what we're going to go ahead and do today is we're going to have a conversation with a gentleman that we're going to disagree on some things, but I'll tell you what. We need to have this conversation. It's very important that we understand what it is that is being advocated across the airwaves and in the lamestream media, the media that's so last century, because I've been hearing some crazy stuff, and I'm sure that Chris Hellman from National Priorities Project is going to agree with me. Crazy stuff, where we have Vice President Biden coming out, saying, well, okay, yeah, I pinky sweared and promised that we were going to be out of Afghanistan by 2014. Maybe not. I'm so shocked. And then we have Martin Luther King holiday, celebration of Martin Luther King Monday, and all of a sudden we're getting out, from the Department of Defense, Pentagon coming out saying, well, Martin Luther King, he would be in support of us killing people in Afghanistan. Of course he would. We write the history books. We're going to say, now, let's see the other side. They may have an opinion. Will they be rewriting it in another way to benefit whatever it is they want? We're going to find out. Chris Hellman is budget analyst for the National Priorities Project. I got you there, Chris?
You do.
Chris, go ahead and help me understand what the National Priorities Project, because right off the bat, I can tell from that right there, it's going to be national, and we're going to have priorities, and there's a project for it, okay?
Right.
So,
what NPP attempts to do is demystify the federal budget process. We think that an awful lot of things go on with our taxpayers' dollars being done, in our name, and yet the majority of Americans don't really have an understanding of A, what it is that's being done, and B, how the work gets done in Washington. And we think that as participants in a democracy, you need an informed electorate, and one of the things you need to understand is how your tax dollars are being spent. And that's the priorities portion, which is are the dollars being spent the way you think they ought to be? And what we want to do is make it clear to people how the dollars are being spent, so that they can be informed participants in the national debate about where the direction our federal government ought to go in.
Okay. I want them to stop taking my money. That's my vote, okay? Right. And if I had a majority of people saying stop taking my money, would they stop taking my money?
Well, if you have a majority doing it, hopefully you
Do
can.
I need a majority?
Yeah. Well, you probably do. And, I mean, that's one of the things that's been really interesting about the last year and a half and the emergence of the Tea Party as a vibrant political force, which was, you may disagree or agree with where the Tea Party stands on various issues, and to my mind, it's kind of hard to get a read exactly where they are because they're a group of rugged individuals rather than a centralized political movement in the traditional sense. But one of the things that they've said is, we think you need to listen to us more closely because we're dissatisfied with what's going on. They didn't get a majority, but they got enough people interested in that message that they're going to be players in what goes on in Washington for at least the next 2 years. So when you can motivate that kind of support for a political movement or a political ideology, you can affect change.
Okay, let me go ahead and share something that I think applies to our conversation. At the top of Freedom's Phoenix today, let me go ahead and see if I can find it here for the visual audience. We had a letter from a gentleman that's on LouRockwell.com saying that they're going on about how, how to phrase this is that the libertarian movement, this freedom, this lovolution, this concept that we just want to be left alone, and I don't care what your majority says. In fact, the whole concept of having our country was based on the fact that we would support the concept that I'm allowed to go about my business and not have to worry about the majority taking from me by force. Now, this gentleman wrote this article, Am I Being Unfair to the Republican Liberty Caucus? Now, the Republican Liberty Caucus is this kind of supposed to be the libertarian orientation of inside the Republican Party, and they're going to be represented by, and of course they make the claim, we won, we got all kinds of people in, and it was based on our philosophy and this and that, and the criticism from the real libertarians out here is going, no, you didn't. You're just wanting to socially or economically engineer our lives in a different way. What about those of us that wish not to be engineered? And the reason that I wanted to have this conversation with you is that you use a lot of the speech parts of various different speakers. Certainly Eisenhower's farewell speech is one of my favorites, and to make your point. What was it that you were using his rhetoric and the speech that he had, and what point were you trying to make with it?
Well, I mean, what he's most famous for, and the speech, as you point out, covers a much broader range of this. He speaks to the role of government overall, and argues, I think, quite eloquently, although not convincingly in my mind, that bigger is not necessarily better. But the portion that traditionally people focus on is his emphasis on the power of the military-industrial complex
Yeah.
in shaping security policy. It's a much more focused portion of his speech, and it was intriguing for a lot of people, and is to this day, because obviously, in addition to being commander-in-chief, he was the commander of Allied forces in Europe, in World War II, and a man renowned for his leadership qualities as a lifelong military guy. So to hear him talking about the role that the military-industrial complex would have in shaping U.S. policy is the one that resonates so often with people, and usually what they identify with that particular speech, even though, as you pointed out, it's a much broader subject area.
Yeah, the one. Let's read the paragraph. I have it up on the screen now that you're talking about. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or democratic processes. We should take nothing for granted. Only an alert and knowledgeable citizenry can compel the proper meshing of the huge industrial and military machinery of defense with our peaceful methods and goals so that security and liberty may prosper together. Now, I understand exactly what he was saying as you read the whole speech, and we'll get into some more of it. But that part right there is he was, here's the guy that was the Allied commander going into Normandy, World War II, head of, becomes president, kind of, I'm done with my public service. I'm giving a farewell speech. This is what I got to say, and gosh darn it, you should listen to me because I know. So I'm paying attention to the boy. Now, the thing is that, unwarranted influence. Well, where does that influence come from? From whom? And to accomplish what? If we're not spending it on the military-industrial complex, is there something else we should steal your money for? That's a noble cause? What is it? Well, we're going to find out from Chris Hellman from the National Priorities Project, when we come back here on Declare Your Independence in just a little bit. This is Ernest Hancock. I'm publisher of freedomsphoenix.com and the radio talk show host of Declare Your Independence. Now, I want to give you my personal endorsement of a wealthy U.S. citizen that is predicting that in 2011, we will witness the most important day in America in more than 50 years. He's produced a video for you. It's a real eye-opener, and I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to watch it. www.endofamerica, the numbers 1 and 7.com. endofamerica17.com. This video has the history of how we got where we are now and where we're going and why. Now, it's a lengthy video. It'll be about 20 minutes, but you need to watch this so you understand what's going to happen to this country and how you can protect your wealth and even benefit financially. Now, you go there. It's free. I want you to watch this video. You need to have this information so that you can survive the economic collapse that's coming to America. It's not if, it's when. That's End of America, the numbers 1 and 7.com. After you watch it, you'll understand why I endorse it.